You are now listening to Clay Mohr, the American storyteller.
Seems like the weatherman can never get it right. Got up early and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. Sunny and beautiful, they said. Well, it's late afternoon and it's starting to look like Armageddon. So much for the rest of my outdoor projects. The young man that does all my tech work tells me I should get the weather app on my phone. Clay, you can track radar and everything. I said, well, then I won't have anyone to blame or talk about. Anyway, it's going to be dark soon, so I guess I'll go inside. It was still cool enough outside, so I decided to settle on a nice fire. Got some cherry wood from a neighbor of mine that always makes the house smell real nice. One of my German shepherds, Brina Lynn, had recently finished up with her litter of puppies. I thought it would be a nice night to get her back in the house and kind of get reacquainted. She's a great dog and a wonderful mom. I always have a waiting list for her puppies. Just a sweetheart. I remember I had a couple of boxes in the guest room closet I've been meaning to go through. Well, I guess there's no time like the present. Oh, yeah, the guest room gets used the least, and it seems like I spend the most time fussing over it. Go figure. I got a nice fire going and poured myself a glass of wine from a bottle that my nephew's bride, Karen, had gotten me. Nice lady, by the way, always very kind to me. Well, here goes nothing, I thought to myself as I opened the two boxes and started to explore their contents. I started going through the first box, which contained a large number of old photos of family and friends, along with animal pictures of my horses and German shepherds. I have several framed, and hanging by the fireplace, but I should probably get some nice albums, to at least store them in. Yeah, put it on the to-do list. Sometimes it feels like I'm into the next century. I paused and kind of moved that box over to the side as I was anxious to see what was in the second one. Lo and behold, there was a lot of material, mementos, and of course, photos from my years of coaching youth baseball teams. Those were some special times, I immediately said to myself. I dug deeper, and all those times started to come back to life. I would like to take a moment or two and share them with you if you don't mind. I got involved in youth sports actually by accident, as they say. And me personally, I don't really believe in accidents. I like to refer to them as part of life's journey and in some cases, just plain old destiny. I was talking to my accountant one morning when I had my trucking slash excavating business, John Walsh. To say he is a great guy is only skimming the surface. He went on to inform me that he was coaching a little league team and asked if I wanted to sponsor the team. The age group was 11 and 12-year olds. What a great age, I thought to myself. Little did I know how great of an experience it would turn out to be. He threw the numbers out at me, no pun intended, and went on to say how my company name would go on the back of the jerseys. I said, I don't know, John. Clay Mohr trucking on the backs of 11 and 12-year-olds? John said, cut it out, Clay. Your reputation is the best in the area. I said jokingly, it's the rest of it that worries me, John. We both had a good laugh, and I told him I would have Angie send him out a check in tomorrow's mail. John said, thanks, Clay. I really appreciate it. Least I could do, John, I said. Angela Marie Vasquez, my girl, Friday. I call her Angie. Don't know what I would do without her. She reminds me of that every year at raise time. I will never forget when I hired her. When I got to filling out some of the paperwork, she informed me that her name was Angela with 2 L's. Okay. Whenever she gets mad at me, I start calling her Angela with 2 L's. She can never keep a straight face. Great lady. And I remind her boyfriend of that every time I see him. Down to the yard the following morning, I explained to her the situation with John and gave her all the information for the check. She looked up at me from her desk and remarked, you getting soft in your old age, Clay Mohr? No, Angie, it's for a good cause. And anyways, John's a great guy, and Tim, his nephew's on the team this year. Okay, Clay, I'll get it out first thing. I really didn't give it much more thought as I needed to get out on the job we were working at the time. The rare late March snows had put us behind a little as the ground was pretty wet, and the spring rains were right around the corner. I got a good crew, I said to myself. We'll get through it. Now that I look back, it was a great crew. Probably the best I ever had. A week or so went by when I got back to the yard late one evening. I had run into an old friend of mine at the parts store, and we got to reminiscing a little bit. Angie had already left for the day as I made my way to my office. I saw the little sticky note right away that she had left on my desk. Clay, called John Walsh right away. What's wrong now? I thought to myself. I gave him a call, and he picked up right away. Hey, Clay, he said, thanks for getting back to me. Before he could say anything else, I said, what happened? Did they ban me from sponsoring the team? John laughed and said, nah, no, nothing like that, but I do have another problem. My brother-in-law, Tim's dad, was supposed to help me out coaching the team, but his company had to change his hours temporarily, and he won't be able to help out. The games are on weeknights with makeups on Saturday, and our last practice is this week, and the season starts in about 10 days. I'm running out of options here. I know you have great knowledge about the game as you spent some time, with your buddy when he was a scout for the Yankees. Who told you that? I said. Oh, Angie was telling me about it. Yeah, I said, and Angie's got a big mouth too. Wait I catch up with this Angie. Anyways, I was wondering if you could help us out and take my brother's place, my brother-in-law's place. I don't know, John. I never did anything like that before. Come on, Clay. It's no big deal. We play 2 games a week, early evening. Give you a little bit of a break from your business. I still don't know, Jan. I've been to some of these games, and some of these parents can get a little mouthy. All I need to do is lose my temper in front of the kids. I'd hate to smack some kid's father or relative. Don't worry. I'll keep an eye on things. Anyways, it ain't like that. A lot of these parents just drop their kids off and pick them up later. Well, that ain't good, I said to myself. I must have been silent for a while because John finally asked, "You still there, Clay?" "Yeah, I'm still here, unfortunately." "All right," I said, "just until you find somebody else." "Great, Clay. I'll see you Tuesday the 23rd over at the Fields. Round 6. Game starts at 6:30. You need me to bring anything, John?" "Yeah, Clay, just your patience." Great, I thought to myself. I ran out of that years ago. All right. But by the way, what team name did they assign you? The Yankees, Clay. Well, Tuesday rolled around and I made sure I got back to the yard early. As I came in, Angie asked me why I was back so early. I told her I was going to my second job. "What is that, Clay?" she said. "Assistant coach of the Yankees. You know, the one you volunteered me for." Angie laughed and said, "Oh, you'll love it, Clay." "I better, or we'll talk about it at race time." Would you mind locking up and I'll see you in the morning," I said as I walked out the door. I got to the Fields and spotted John right away. I shook my head as I got to the dugout and saw baby Yankees with Clay Mohr Trucking on the back of their jerseys. Good Lord. John introduced me to the team as Mr. Moore, and I said, "That's all right. No need for that. Everybody just call me Clay." Well, we were home team that night, and John hollered out at everybody, "Take your positions. Clay, when we come up to bat, do you want to coach first base or third?" "I'll take first, John. I'd like to get everybody off to a good start." Well, the games were only 7 innings, and it went rather quick. John was right. A lot of these parents just dropped their kids off. What a shame these young men's parents can't even come to watch them play, especially the fathers. As the games went on, you could start to see a pattern. Seems like the kids whose parent or parents were at the games did rather well, while those who weren't tended to struggle. It didn't take me long to figure out which kids were the latter. We were about halfway through the season and doing pretty good, if I do say so. I started to work with a couple of the kids whose parents were never at the games. Spent extra time before the games and in warm-ups and encouraging them during the games. As in life, sometimes a good pat on the back goes a long way. I have had that philosophy for most of my adult life. Probably the reason why I never had a problem getting good people to work for me. Toward the end of the season, it really started to show. One of the kids, Lonnie, had really improved. So much so that John made him the starting second baseman. And he was built like a second baseman. Every time he got on base, I had him steal second. And every time, he was safe. I still remember when he would get up and brush himself off. Lonnie would always look in the stands and no one was there for him. So sad, I thought. I still remember it. Things like that, you never forget. John had a saying: don't tell them who you are, show them who you are. Well, show them we did. Last game of the season was for first place. The big trophies, they used to call it. We beat the Red Sox 7-5 on Lonnie's game-winning double. As I stood at first base, I said to myself, better remember this one, Clay. Not many fairy tale endings in this lifetime. If anyone ever said the first base coach for the Yankees had a tear in his eye, I would deny it till this day. Little did I know at that time that this would be the defining moment that would have me involved in youth sports and other youth activities for years to come. A few weeks later, I came in and Angie said, there's a package on your desk, Clay. Okay, I said, let me move that horse trailer and I'll be right in. I came back in and opened the box. It was a plaque from the Little League. It had a team picture and read Bristol Little League, 11, 12-year-olds, Yankees, first place, sponsor, Clay Mohr Trucking. Well, this caught me by surprise. Went out and handed it to Angie. Please hang this when you get time. Angie looked at it and said, see, Clay, now aren't you glad you helped out? Yeah, I said as I went back out to the yard. The next morning, I had to look at a job a good hour away. I stopped and got coffee and tuned in the one sports station that I like to listen to. The one announcer was talking about a big sports memorabilia show that was coming up in a week or so. They had some big names that were going to be signing, with Mickey Mantle at the top of the list. The Mick, I said to myself. Mickey Charles Mantle, Yankees center fielder, number 7. 536 career home runs. The Mick made 2 impossible catches to save Don Larson's perfect game in the 1956 World Series. Gold Glove winner as well. Born October 1931, died August 1995. Arguably one of the greatest to ever play the game. The records and statistics are legendary and too numerous to discuss in this writing. Let me pause here and say this. Whether you are a sports fan or not, I would encourage everyone to do some reading on this sports icon. You can even go on YouTube and watch highlights or even full games of the 1950s and 60s New York Yankees. The World Series games, which are many, are the best of all. They're my favorite. As I continued on to my destination, I thought to myself, I wonder if I have any of our game balls in the equipment bag back in my office. I quoted the job. When I got back to my office early that afternoon, I checked the equipment bag and there was 1 baseball left. I grabbed it, put it on my desk. Angie came in my office with a sheet of paper and handed it to me. This was in the box with the plaque, Clay. It was a list from John of all the player names, positions they played, and their jersey number. As I looked down the list, I saw Lonnie's name. Lonnie Johnson, second base, number 7. He had the same number as the Mick. With that, I had a pretty neat idea. I wrote myself a sticky note and put it on the dashboard of my truck. About a week later, I found myself at the sports memorabilia show on a Saturday morning, standing in line to buy a Mickey Mantle autograph ticket. I headed over to the area where the signing was going on and pretty busy. So I went over to the concessions to get a cup of coffee and look around. I stopped at a table that had baseball holders. Pretty neat. I saw one that was really classy and told the lady to hold it for me. I'll be back in a little while, I explained to her. She said no problem. The crowd had thinned out a bit, so I headed back to the signing area. As I started to get in line, there was the Mick with that big smile. It was bigger than life itself. He was sitting at the first signing table, and he had a very attractive woman with short hair sitting next to him. I found out later her name was Greer, and she was his assistant from the sports agency that handled all of his affairs. I took the game baseball and handed it to the promoter that was passing the pictures and baseball cards and other items that were there for Mickey to sign. When it came my turn, he handed it to Greer first. She looked at me and handed it to Mickey. He paused slightly and looked momentarily at the ball. I knew exactly what he was thinking. You see, for whatever reason, a Little League baseball is smaller than a Major League baseball. Now, you'd think it would be the other way around so they had a better chance at hitting it. No, not the case. Their hands were smaller, so they have to be able to throw it. Mickey looked up at me and said, "This has a scuff on it. Is this a game ball?" I answered yes and went on to tell him briefly about Lonnie. He kind of moved his head up and down as I was telling him and started to sign it. Seemed like it was taking him a little longer, as during my time in line, I knew about how long it took to sign. I thought to myself, I hope there's nothing wrong with this ball. Well, my fears were immediately dismissed as Greer looked up at me with a big smile. The Mick had handed me back the baseball and told me, "You tell that young man to keep up the good work." I said I will as I looked down at the baseball. He had written, "Nice job, Mickey Mantle." I thank both of them very much. I don't even remember making my way back to the baseball holder vendor. What a wonderful act of kindness, I said to myself. I paid the lady, and she gave me the baseball holder, and I went over to the side on the one table. I carefully put the ball into the holder and sealed it up and put it back in the bag. I left the show, and as I drove back, I kept thinking about this kind gesture. Started thinking about the last time I was at Yankee Stadium some years ago. I remember seeing the plaques mounted there of several players. I will always remember Mickey's especially. Said something like, Mickey Mantle, a great teammate, 1931 to 1995. A magnificent Yankee who left a legacy of unequaled courage. Can't forget that one. Before I knew it, I was pulling up in front of Lonnie's house. I knocked on the front door, and Lonnie's mom answered. I told her who I was, and she said, Of course, Mr. Mohr, please come in. Then it dawned on me. Although I had told everyone on the team to call me Clay, Lonnie had always called me Mr. Mohr. Turns out that Lonnie had gone with his dad for a haircut, and they wouldn't be back for a while. So I handed Lonnie's mom the bag for him and told her I would be in touch. She wanted me to stay, but I said, hey, thank you, but I need to get going. A lot of things to get done today. Some years later, the Mick passed. Even icons have physical ailments. Turns out over the years, the Mick had a lot of problems in his personal life. Well, I guess when you're famous, they're even more amplified. A man once said, stars are stars, but they were people first. I can remember when Bob Costas gave his eulogy. He spoke, in the last years of his life, Mickey Mantle, always so hard on himself, finally came to accept and appreciate the distinction between a role model and a hero. The first, he often was not. The second, he will always be. There's no doubt in my mind that Lonnie will grow up to be a better human being than most. And maybe, just maybe, with a little luck from the Mick, his father will grow up to be a better dad. But that's another story for another time. Bringing the past to the present. I am Clay Mohr.